everybody, welcome back to another episode of 5 Minute Gaming News, the show that may or may not be 5 minutes. Today in the news, it's time to say goodbye to the last iteration of Xbox Live. That's right, starting September 14th, Xbox Live Gold will now become Game Pass Core. Doesn't really have the same ring to it, but branding is branding. For those unfamiliar, the Xbox Live Gold subscription not only gave players access to Xbox multiplayer gaming, but also access to a library of over 25 games, ranging from Fallout 4 to Hellblade to Gears 5 to Psychonauts 2 and more. So what exactly will happen come September? Well, according to The Verge, existing Xbox Live Gold memberships will be automatically transferred across to Xbox Game Pass Core on September 14th. With the service priced at the same rate of $9.99 per month, or $59.99 per year as Xbox Live Gold. So now the 4 Game Pass options are Game Pass Core, which will include online multiplayer and 25 games on console, Game Pass Console, which offers your standard Game Pass perks of access, day one games, and more, Game Pass PC, which is identical to console tier, except it also includes EA Play, and then there's Game Pass Ultimate, which is all 3 of those previous tiers combined. And that's really as simple as I could make it sound. So that's it for Xbox Live. Times change, things move on, and after 21 years of service, Xbox Live ends this September. But hey, as I've said before, Game Pass is a really good deal for gamers, and if you have an Xbox or a PC and you want the PC Game Pass, really solid deal. It gives you a lot for the price. I cannot stress that enough. So maybe it's for the best. In other news, we've gotten more information about what we can expect from Ubisoft's upcoming Star Wars game, a game that a lot of people are hyped for, and now we know a bit more about. We now have some idea of Star Wars Outlaws' size and scope. And while the open world won't have 1,000 planets like its September sci-fi RPG cousin, that doesn't mean it won't be without some pretty substantial worlds and designs. In an interview with Edge Magazine, Outlaws creative director Julian Garrity shared, "It's a crude analogy, but the size of one planet might be about equivalent to 2 zones in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, for example. It could be 2 or 3 zones. But it's not, this sort of epic, the whole of England recreated approach, which I think is a pretty good size. I remember back to playing Odyssey, and while I was a little overwhelmed and afraid of the sharks, I think for the most part, I enjoyed the fact that it was big, yet manageable, and those islands, if you consider them different zones, the different parts of it, I think I can understand what they're going for. And I don't think every space game needs 100 or so planets. If you look at, Jedi Survivor, for example, that's not hundreds of planets. The planets we got, though, were super fun, and there's a lot of stuff to explore and do on them. So if they give us, 5 really great planets, I'm here for it. They have to find that perfect balance, where they're not giving us something that's too small, where we feel like they're under-delivering the Star Wars experience and keeping us sort of like in a straight line on a path and doesn't feel very open world if you're going to promise open world. And also, they don't want to just balloon it to the point where there's nothing to see and we're walking around empty dead worlds, which is very boring, and I think a problem a lot of us are fearing when it comes to a game like Starfield with 1,000 worlds. We'll all find out very soon, of course. Later on in the interview, Garrity went on to state, "We're really focusing on what open world means to the player, which is full freedom of approach." And I'll be real, that to me is the most important thing. In games like, say, Dishonored, for example, which I've been going back to a lot lately, I loved that game. Yes, you could wander around the city and look at different things, but the way you could resolve missions was amazing. There were so many different ways to solve a thing. Same with Witcher 3. The reason why that game is phenomenal isn't just because it's open world. It's because everything in that world leads to something that can help you resolve a problem, and there are multiple ways to do it, and I think that's the key. It doesn't have to be big and grandiose and huge, as long as if there's a problem, there's multiple ways to solve it. That, to me, is more of the open world vibe I'm for. It's less about the choice to just wander off in one direction and see what's around the corner, and more about the choice of, here's my problem, how do I solve it? That's the openness I want. Thankfully, from what tidbits we've seen of Outlaws, particularly the official game walkthrough, it looks like Massive Entertainment is on track to deliver that kind of rich and interactive experience. And that should be pretty good news for Star Wars fans. Anyway, that's it for me. Thanks so much. I'll see y'all tomorrow for another episode of 5 Minute Gaming News.